Hi, I'm Allison Winteroth, and I wanted to show you today how I made this backdrop. I am a photographer and I use these backdrops for all kinds of different things, but they're beautiful for portrait sessions, as well as if you were getting married or having a baby shower or even a first birthday party, you could easily make this. It is super simple. It doesn't require a lot of money, just a little bit of time. And I wanted to share with you exactly how I did it and just give you some tips that I learned along the way. So first of all, this is really simple. There's not a lot of materials involved. And I basically used these 12 by 16 pieces of paper. This is watercolor paper that is cold pressed, so it's got a nice texture to it. You could do a hot press if you wanted something a little smoother, but I did like the way that it gave a little bit of variety to the image. I wanted it to be organic looking in photographs and have interest, so I didn't make them all perfect or make them all exactly the same, which is nice because you don't have to worry about spending a lot of time making sure everything is perfectly brushed and all of that. So I used a few supplies. So I used the watercolor paper. This paper comes in a pack of 120. I actually linked everything you need below me in the show notes, and you are welcome to grab those if it makes it easy for you, but I'm going to tell you what I used. So I used this size 20 silver hake brush, and you could use a simple paintbrush if you wanted, or even a foam brush. But I liked this one because it has really, really soft bristles. I've used it for a long time and it keeps in really good shape. And I didn't have bristles falling out, which was a really nice thing. It has really soft bristles, which means when I was making my brush strokes, it didn't leave a lot of hard brush strokes on the paper. And although I wanted everything to look different, I didn't want there to be really strong brush strokes on the paper. So I ended up, this brush was good because it would not keep everything from looking, totally different. And I didn't have to spend a lot of time filling in those brush strokes. So super smooth, like the brush. The other thing I used was just 5 colors of Winsor and Newton paint. There are lots of different kinds of watercolor paint. I have used them all. I like this Winsor Newton because it seemed like the colors mixed really well. I am not a color expert by any means, but you do want to test your colors together because if you want a whole bunch of different shades, you need different colors, obviously, to put on there. But not all colors mix well together. Some colors have blue tones to them, and if you mix those with a warm tone, then you're gonna end up with a muddy mess. Have you ever mixed all your paints together and you end up with a brown mess? That can happen with watercolors as well. And so what I did beginning, super simple, I got the colors I liked, and I ended up mixing each one together to make sure that they weren't gonna make a muddy mess. And you can use the colors I used. You could do your own. This would be beautiful in greens and blues, or even better, what I was thinking was rainbow colors would be really pretty. I didn't get into all that. I was looking for something really feminine. I do a lot of maternity stuff, so I wanted something like this. I'm going to name you the colors. Like I said, they are all in the bottom show notes, so you are welcome to grab those. As I mentioned, they're all Winsor & Newton. This is Winsor Orange Red shade. Then we have Scarlet Lake. We have, I'm not going to pronounce this correctly, but I'm going to try, Quinacedrone Red. It's a really pretty peachy kind of pink color. Yellow Ochre and Alizarin. I think that's also how you pronounce it, I'm hoping. You can tell I've used this one a lot. This and the Yellow Ochre were my 2 favorites to use. This is like a red color, but the more you water it down, the pinker it gets, which is really nice. So a couple things with working with watercolors. If you want a dark color, you use less water. If you want a lighter color, you use more water. So the way that I did this was I put 5 of my colors on the plate. Now, all of these colors I tested before. I made sure they weren't going to turn into a brown muddy mess. But I would then put a little water on my brush and I would mix two colors together. So maybe I would pick this pink color and then this orangey color. And the two of them, I put a little water on them, I'd pull these into the middle and mix them up together. And then once I had a nice strong color on my brush and the colors were mixed together really well, I would take my brush and take it and make brush strokes onto my paper to fill it up. That would be my darkest color. Then I would take a little bit of water on my brush, dip it in, and take the next sheet of paper and put that on my brush. Now we are looking at two papers that are different colors, different shades of the same color. So they're going to work well together, but they're a little bit lighter. So they're going to create lots of interest and variety on your backdrop. Then I would take my brush, put it back in the water. No more paint. I'm not putting any more paint back on until I've used up almost all the paint on my brush. Then I would do the next piece of paper. So now we're working on 3 sheets of the same color, just more water. Then I would do it again and again until I finally made up into the lightest shade. You can see up at the top here, we have really light colors. And then if you go down to the middle and the outsides, you get really dark color. So I have all these shades in between, and I'll show you how I organize those in just a minute. So then I might go back to my drawing board. I might try it again with a little more shade of another one. Or I might bring in another color to mix that up so that you have a whole bunch of different colors. All I'm using is a white ceramic plate so I can see the colors and they can all mix together. You could do this with a paper plate or a plastic plate. You could do it on a lunch tray. You could do it on anything. You could use a watercolor palette, but I don't see the need to do that because the thing about this is that you want the colors by the very end. All the colors were used and all the colors were mixed up. So then some of these include all those colors. Some of them include just 2. So that's how you get all this variety from just 5 different shades. And then once all the colors are mixed in, once I start running out of color, then I might take a little more orange and put it on the plate. And then so whatever comes off that plate has more orange. And then once that gets used up, then I might add a little more pink. And then you're just growing and growing and growing. And it's just creating all different shades of different colors, and you're getting a lot of variety for your paper. So once I have my paper painted, I leave it to dry for anywhere from like 15 to 30 minutes, depending on how much humidity and what kind of area you're working in. And you want it to be able to be touchable. So you want to be able to touch it with your hands and not have the paint come off on your hands. And then I would stack them. Usually I would stack like 5 or 6 pieces together and then take a little paper towel and put it in between, and then take 5 or more pieces and stack those on top and put that so that you have like a layered sandwich kind of. And then I would put this under something hard. Now, heavy, not hard. Well, hard and heavy. So like a whole bunch of books, or some people put them, like I have a flower press, and so I actually put them in the flower press. Because if you don't, these papers will dry really curled, or they might curl like this. And although my papers have curled some, since I put them on the wall, when I started they were very flat. So if you start with curled paper, you might end up with way more curls than you want in it. I did end up tacking some of the corners down, and I'll show you how I did that in a minute. But some of the ones that were really curled, I ended up just tacking them lightly down so that they wouldn't be so obvious. And there's a few more that I would like to do, like this one. This one should definitely come down a little bit. I'll explain to you how I did that in a minute. But anyway, then I left it for a few days so it would get nice and flat, it would dry. Every day or so I'd come in and I'd move the paper towels so that different papers were getting dried, and it just helped move the process along a little bit quicker. Once everything was dry, I sorted them. So the trick to sorting is that you want to put like colors together. So with this wall, I started with dark pink in the center, and my idea was then to do lighter colors going out around me. So it was kind of like almost like the center of focus was on the person that was in the middle. However, halfway through, I ran out of paper because I didn't make enough, because I didn't realize how much paper it was going to take. I ended up taking 240 pieces of watercolor paper, so 2 packs of the paper that are linked below. ended up making me a wall that's about 6 feet tall and 8 feet wide. Of course, you might get further if you didn't want to layer them on top of each other and you just put them like piece to piece. You could probably use a lot less paper, but because I wanted to do more of an organic look where they were layered, obviously I needed more paper. But so 240 sheets is what I ended up using. Then I sorted them by color. So what I did was I took all the, I put them into 6 piles. I took the really light pink ones, like this little ballet pink color, and then the ones that were more of a coral color. So I would put those really light colors together. Then I would take the medium ones on the pink and the medium ones in the coral, and then the dark pink ones and the dark coral ones. And each one I would, keep in these piles. So then when it was time to put them on the wall, depending on what pattern you want to do will depend on how you want your stuff to go. So I started with the pink, and then I decided, since I ran out of paper, I was like, well, I'm going to change it a little bit anyway. So I ended up pink to coral to pink again here. And here I went pink to coral over here. So it gives variety. You could stand in a different place in this backdrop and have something look totally different than if you stand in another spot. It just gives a ton of variety and beauty, and your pictures look gorgeous. So once I had them sorted, I just started putting them up on the wall. And the way I put them up on the wall is with this stuff called mounting putty by Gorilla. It is just like sticky tack. I like it because it held really well. I have put these up for several weeks. The paper is not falling off, and I can, fuss with them, and none of this stuff is coming off. All I did was put 2 pieces on each corner on the top of the paper, and I stuck it right onto my wall. Now, because I wanted it to layer, I started with the bottom and moved up. So the bottom ones, the top ones stack on top of the lower ones. So you have to start from the bottom and move up. So keep in mind how you want to do it is how you need to put it on the wall. Now, as I mentioned before, I had some of my corners that were curling up. All I did was take a little piece of this sticky tack, or mounting putty by Gorilla, and I put it on one of the corners, stuck it right on there, pushed it down. Oops, I lost my, I lost it. I didn't stick it on there well enough. I stuck it on the corner just like this, made sure it was stuck, and then just pushed it down. And then you might have to do it with some of the ones around to make sure everything sticks really well. But then that helps keep things a little flatter if that's the look you're going for. It really depends on what your jam is. I want them to look organic. I want them to look interesting. I don't want them perfectly flat on the wall. That's just me. But some of the ones that are really high out kind of bother me a little bit. So I will make adjustments as they go. So really simple. All it does is take you a little bit of time, and it makes a really beautiful, interesting wall that you could use in your home or at a party or wedding. If you're a photographer, lots of options for this. I would love to hear if you have any questions. You can put those in the comments below. If you have any comments, if you've tried it, I would love to hear how it goes. And I would absolutely love it if you subscribe to my channel. As I mentioned, I'm a photographer. I make lots of backdrops, and that's one of my favorite things to do. I also talk a lot about gear, how you can do things with photography. I've been a photographer for 15 years now, so I've been around for a long time, and I love teaching and I love working with people. So love it if you give it a subscribe, and like I mentioned, everything is linked in the show notes below, and have a great day.